thank you, Jeff and Jasper, for joining me today. We're going to go into the weeds on a lot of different things. Ending extreme poverty is obviously a big task and a big journey. And as we see the world of finance changing, the world of how do we get money across the world and how we can deliver impact a lot of different ways, crypto can do that. But I think before we get into stablecoin and then what Glow is and its mission and vision, let's get into a little bit of each of your backgrounds. Jeff, we'll start with you on what brought you into starting Glow and getting into this mission of solving extreme poverty.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having us. I really appreciate it. I basically, it was 2 summers ago, I met Sid Sibrandy, summer of 2021, and he had an idea around creating a cryptocurrency around generating basic income, helping solve extreme poverty. And this kind of comes from this idea of he gave some money to give directly as a donation, saw the impact there, thinking about the scale of the problem of extreme poverty, and then could we build a sustainable way to generate money using a cryptocurrency to actually make a huge impact in solving the problem of extreme poverty. So it was an early idea of a white paper, a document shared with me. I joined thinking about the ideas as a consultant, decided to jump on as the CEO and build a startup around this idea. And it really was just, here's a huge problem in the world. We know there's a lot of impact from doing cash transfers. Can we use and create a sustainable mechanism using a cryptocurrency and creating something that can have a huge impact in solving this problem? Now, my background was from academia. I was teaching finance, economics, and blockchain fintech courses. I specifically taught an international development course, and I thought this specific problem was really interesting and understanding, like how fundamentally people need money and capital and to generate economic growth. And I thought it was a really important aspect of what to work on in the world and was pretty inspired by the idea.
How did the academia community react when you said, I'm leaving you for a cryptocurrency startup?
Yeah, it's I had some meetings with a lot of colleagues early on when I was forming some of these ideas and starting the project, and they're all pretty excited about it. It's the ambitious kind of thinking and the global problem solving. That's very academic in the sense of thinking of models and mechanisms and theories around how do you construct the right economies and build institutions. I really like the applied aspect is a little different. I think it's interesting to think of, okay, what kind of product in the world, what solution in the world is actually going to lead to this transformational change that economic theory would support in that sense. But yeah, it was really positive. It's exciting to kind of shift into this startup mindset and build something that people are going to use.
Awesome. Jasper, you want to jump in and talk about your journey real quick?
Yeah, definitely. So my background is in computer science and artificial intelligence, really on the technology side. Interestingly, I'm kind of back to technology now, but when I graduated, I gradually moved away from technology. At first, I thought that was really my thing. And then I realized more and more that what is interesting to me is not really the technology itself, but more like what it can mean to people and to people's daily lives. Wanted to be a product manager, got the opportunity to be a product manager at a fintech startup. That's interestingly how my career got a bit more into money. First, I always considered money a very boring topic.
Right.
But hey, I wanted to be a product manager at a startup and they had a job for me. So I was like, okay, I'll just do this. But then you go into it more and more and more. And at some point you just realize that there's more to it than you had thought on the surface level. Further down the rabbit hole, got into crypto. Honestly, this opportunity at Glow came quite out of the blue to me. It's kind of a blessing because I never really considered the direction my career was taking to at some point coincide with my ideals. Because at some point I was, into fintech and into crypto. I was like, okay, I guess I'll have to get my moral satisfaction from things outside of my job. And then things started sort of like perfectly coming together when I heard about this project that is, on the one hand using this often profit-seeking thing called cryptocurrency, but then using it for something completely different, which is basic income and economic equality.
So I want to try to phrase this question in a way where we're all going to come at it maybe from the same level as hopefully all listeners, we can kind of guide ourselves here. When a person asks you maybe what Glow is, how do you explain it to them? Maybe obviously you might explain it to from a very crypto native person who understands stable coins and Bitcoin and Ethereum and how blockchain works, but very different if you're maybe talking at a conference, right? And you're at a general tech conference or general, impact conference, let's say, and somebody asks, what is Glow? How do you explain it to them?
Yeah. I actually like explaining it to people not into crypto, perhaps even more, because it's more challenging. So think about it like this. Extreme poverty is one of the worst problems in the world. But the good news is that for a lot of countries, reducing extreme poverty can actually be done relatively simple. So there's a surprisingly simple solution. And that simple solution is giving money, giving basic incomes. And then we're talking in the order of magnitude of like $35, $40 a month. That has been done on, quite small scales, and it seems to work quite well generally. So that's good because now we have a big societal problem and a solution that seems to work relatively well. And then the question is, how can we scale that up? Well, if you want to scale up basic incomes, you just need more money to give away. Of course, there are other things as well. You need distribution networks, and there's a whole operational challenge behind that. But one thing you definitely need is more money to give away. Now, most basic income programs, so far, they are based on donated money, so charitable donations or foreign aid budgets. Then the question is, well, is there enough of that to really crank up this basic income program solution? And our answer to that, and we can go into a bit more detail there about why we think that, we believe the answer is no. We believe they're just like donation-based philanthropy is amazing. And if you donate to charities, please keep doing it. But, the average American household gives away 1.8% of their income, which means that, 98.2% of the money you earn is not going to charity. So most of your money is not going to charity.
Sure.
And Glow is the answer to the question, can we change the way our money works such that philanthropy is actually embedded in the currency itself, so that just using money rather than giving it away, just using a particular type of money is already doing something good. And that's what the Glow dollar is. Now, to actually do that in real life, we use cryptocurrency, but that's not really what it's about. In fact, lately, the fact that our cryptocurrency has actually been working against us more than it has helped us. But yeah, there's no way around it. Like, if you want to change how money works, if you want to create a new kind of money, and we're creating a new kind of money, how do you do that without crypto? So that's why we're using crypto.
It's money on blockchain. Like, I think crypto versus what Glow is, I want people to kind of separate those things. We can talk about that more. But like, blockchain is a technology and a consensus settlement layer that's really been proven to be extremely useful. And I think building money on that is a scalable way to do this. And we'll talk about how we can get to the billions and billions of dollars of income generation that can help solve this problem. So it's less about crypto. It's more about using these new technologies to build a form of money that, again, what Jasper said, embedded philanthropy, embedded income generation within the actual money you're using.
Yeah, let's really touch on separating Glow or stable coins, let's put that in one bucket, versus, I guess we'll take the two biggest examples, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's separate those and talk about the stable coins and how that acts differently, perhaps than Bitcoin and Ethereum, and why do you think this is the best mechanism for Glow is to be a stable coin?
So stable coin, let's just talk about the price or the value that people see. That's first important. Stable coin pegged to $1 if it's US denominated. Other cryptocurrencies that aren't pegged, they're going to fluctuate in value. So with Bitcoin, Ether, you see the price change dramatically relative to US dollars. You get into a lot of speculative talk and exchanges and all those things. With the stablecoin, our model it's going to be a fiat fully backed stablecoin. And when people refer to the different types of stablecoin, we're a centralized stablecoin versus a decentralized one. And what that means is we're going to take in actual dollars, actual fiat money, and support the price and peg it 1-to-1. So there's actual real money backing the stablecoin value, and that's going to keep its value in the markets. It's a totally separate type of cryptocurrency, if we're going to use that term, because we're not something on the blockchain that represents It's like Bitcoin is a native cryptocurrency of the Bitcoin network and blockchain. Ether is the native cryptocurrency of the Ethereum network. Ether is used to process transactions. That's all part of that infrastructure. We're building on top of these blockchains and using the tool of crypto to actually create a form of money that's really supported in terms of value.
Let's talk a little bit about how it works. So for individuals or companies even, right? Because both can participate in this. How does Glow start? It starts by you need people to believe in it, right? You need people to actually send money to the reserve, right? So you can then invest it, let's say. We'll get into the treasury bill part. But I guess talk just about how you get money into Glow.
I think it might help to compare what we're doing, compare it with what Patagonia is doing, or perhaps Newman's Own, if you know the brand. Patagonia is an interesting example, right? So recently, as you're probably aware, the whole company has been donated to a climate NGO, and which means that Patagonia is just a company that is going to continue about its business as it has been doing. It's continuing to develop garments and sell them and making a profit, except that this profit now doesn't go to shareholders anymore, but it goes to a charity. And the effect of that is that you as an individual, you now have two ways to contribute to this charity. You can either directly donate money to this charity, or you can buy Patagonia products, and then your purchase is actually having a charitable effect. Now, I'm not here to advertise for Patagonia, but it's an interesting example because that means that, at first, like the 1.8% of your money was charitable, and, the other 98.2% of your money wasn't charitable. But, let's say I don't know if this is realistic, but let's say you spend on average 5% of your income on garments. And let's say you buy all of that at Patagonia. Well, now this 5% that you're spending on clothing is also going to be charitable. And what we're trying to do is, what if we can get 100% of your money be charitable? Now, the question is, of course, what would the analog of what Patagonia did be for money? Like you can do it for toilet paper. You can have a toilet paper company that donates 100% of the profits to charity. But how do you do it with money? Well, right. How we do it is this. Let's say you want to contribute to this plan. You have $1,000 laying around. Maybe you're using them for your as your rainy day savings. You send them to us, and we keep your $1,000, your 1,000 real dollars, but we're going to give you 1,000 Glow dollars. You can kind of consider them vouchers, and if at any point you want to reverse that, you can do that. So you can just send us 1,000 Glow dollars back, and we'll give you your real money back. But in the meantime, we are not just going to keep your dollars sitting idly on a bank account, but we're gonna hold a part of them in US Treasury bills. So that's US government bonds, which are very low risk. It's very unlikely that these will lose their value, but we do get a little bit of interest on them. And that interest, that is the money that we're going to donate, which means that in this transaction, you have lost no purchasing power, but we did make money on your money, right, which we're giving away.
It's very similar to, think about, you put money into a bank account, a checking account.
Yep.
The bank takes that money, creates loans, does something else with it to earn interest and make profit for their operations. We're saying, okay, you give us actual money, fiat money, we hold it 100% back. Like, we're not actually creating mortgages or doing the fractional reserve banking, if you know those terms. We're 100% going to keep your Glow dollars supported, so you can trust that it's going to be worth $1. And then, that 100% is backed by US Treasuries at very short maturities, so it's very liquid, and people want to redeem it, it's going to be there. There's no huge risk in terms of the actual money not backing the currency. So I want to make sure people know, like, it's 100% reserve backed rather than the fractional reserve backed, what you see with banks.
And just to be clear, Glow is itself a nonprofit. So let's again just take the parallel. Like, Circle is probably one of the most well-known stable coins. They do kind of the same thing. The difference is they are a company, right? So they would take that interest, and that would be profit for Circle as a business, as a for-profit entity. where you take the interest from the treasury bills, and instead of profit that goes back into Glow, that profit goes to ending extreme poverty via people around the world through, and this is, I think, how we'll get into the next part, is how does it end extreme poverty? Like, what are the steps? I guess you partner with Give Directly, correct? And I guess the gains that are made go to Give Directly, and then they disperse the funds to people in extreme poverty. Is that sort of the flow?
Yeah. That's right. And I think, the Circle nonprofit conversation real quick is, we are nonprofit, and we think that's important for a couple of reasons. One, we want to support the mission of ending extreme poverty. And two, as a nonprofit, us as employees, as leadership of the organization, we have no incentive to be risky with the reserve assets, with customer funds. We have no for-profit incentives to maximize our own income or the company's income. Whereas a company like Circle is a for-profit company, just like any other for-profit bank, they're going to be doing things to maximize profits, which is totally rational. So I think that's an important differentiator in terms of, as a product, a stablecoin in the market, the actual structure of the organization is a key aspect of the trust in that part. The Give Directly part is how the donations actually get put into the world.
Yeah, so maybe just to give a sense of scale, I think that's interesting. So this stablecoin model is not new at all, right? It's an existing thing in the crypto world. And the biggest ones, as you mentioned, are Circle, but also Tether. And Circle and Tether, they serve a need in the crypto world, which is to have something that lives on a blockchain that will always be worth $1. And people generally use it to trade with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, these companies are surprisingly profitable. So to take Circle as an example, their market cap right now is $42 billion.
Yeah,
which means
before we go. Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot, right? So that means,
too, right? I mean, they haven't been in that long, right? They're not a decade old, I don't think. Huh?
I think they were founded in 2018.
Okay, yeah, so quite quick to that.
Yeah. And we estimate that at that market cap, they are able to earn $1.1 billion in reserve interest.
Right.
So they basically have
investing in treasury bills as well. Correct.
Correct.
So the same ideology. Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally the same model. So they have like, by virtue of the business model, they have a money printer pretty much.
Yep.
And all of that goes to their team and the shareholders. So it's honestly a brilliant business. And what we're doing is kind of the same thing, but then instead of that money going to shareholders, it goes to people in extreme poverty. So, hopefully one day we'll be as big as Circle, because that would mean that, at that 1.1 billion per year, like we estimate we would be lifting 2.5 million people out of poverty. So that's by no means enough to end extreme poverty, but I would be proud if we would get there.
Jasper, it's like getting to the market cap of USDC, Circle stablecoin, that gets us to a huge impact. But the size of the market for money is massive. So the potential to solve extreme poverty, we think a stablecoin is one of those avenues that gets us to that potential. Like, we can move into 500 billion of market cap. Think of how much could be generated from an interest earning reserve that supports a stablecoin like that. So it's the potential of this market that gets us really excited. And that's why we talk about these huge numbers and the big vision of ending extreme poverty, because the potential's there. It's a big enough market to where it could potentially happen.
Yeah, and the compounding effect, I think, is what's really powerful, because the more people that want to get involved place their assets in Glow, right, and just let it sit there, like you said, just like a bank account. You could still use it however you want to use it while you're walking around, while you're sleeping. It is actually helping people around the world, get out of extreme poverty. It's a powerful statement. I think once it clicks and people kind of understand what happens in the back end and how it works, it's a very powerful compounding effect as more people get involved.
We've been so I like what you're saying, like as you're walking around and as you're sleeping, and that sounds a lot like passive income, right? Which is also this elusive
passive impact.
Yeah, we've been calling it like passive impact, passive philanthropy, which is a form of being charitable that doesn't cost you money or time.
Was the partnership with Give Directly, is that a formal partnership, or is that just, hey, we see what they're doing a great job, we're just going to send them the money, and then obviously it just comes in as donations to them?
Yeah, no, that's good to mention. Like, no, we have no formal partnership. You know, we're in touch with them, and
Sure.
and they know that we exist, and they're excited to see what will come out of it. But yeah, I don't know if you know this term, but people in the crypto world like to use this word permissionless.
Sure.
And in a way, right? Like we are sort of like permissionlessly building on top of Give Directly. Like we're just going to send them money.
Yeah.
And another term people in the crypto world like to use is money Legos. So like platforms building on top of each other.
Yep.
So in a way, like Give Directly is the money Lego brick, and we're putting another brick on top of them, and they don't have any formal thing to do with that, which is I think quite funny actually.
What did you like about Give Directly? Because there's, even with anything in philanthropy, just like anything in crypto, ironically, there's going to be people who like it and people who don't like it, right? For whatever reasons they might have. What was the decision to go with Give Directly versus another institution that sort of gives money?
First thing I want to mention is the thoughts around like why basic income, why cash transfers. It goes back to like, extreme poverty too, and what's needed to help solve that problem. Well, Give Directly has shown and has many years of showing the impact of cash transfers. So they do a lot of really good research in the areas they operate. They're on the ground, actually making the transfers, doing all the processes to make sure the right people get it and all those things. So they're tracking it and they have the impacts there. I also like the idea of like giving people money lets them choose how best to use that type of giving, rather than the top-down approach of, oh, you need this, we think this is best for you, that type of thing. So that's fundamentally a less controversial type of giving. And, there's still arguments around, is this the best use of funds and all those things? But fundamentally, it's a huge problem. It's UN Sustainable Development Goal number 1, and Give Directly is doing a really good job of it. And it's one of those things Give Directly is not the only NGO or nonprofit doing this, but it's the one that has the capability and the capacity to do it right now and is showing a really good job of making it work.
Just to piggyback real quick, extreme poverty, I guess, is defined by persons living on less than $2 a day. I think right now is sort of the
$2.15. Yep.
$2.15. Yeah. So $2.15. And I guess looking at the issue, right, and the problem, it's obviously it's immense. But when I guess in the early days or even now, right, is when you speak to, like, have you spoken to governments? Have you spoken to, major nonprofits to get their response? Because I think we need everybody involved, right? Specifically those two areas of society. I think, people will do what they want. I think you will see a groundswell of people wanting to buy Glow and be a part of this. But at the end of the day, we still need everybody to play some part, have their big conversations with, whether it's the UN or other big organizations, whether it's local governments at a state level, federal level, international level, whatever it may be. Have you had conversations? What have those been like?
I'm trying to think. We haven't had like high level conversations with people in government, but we've had meetings, with people who are kind of on the ground and working in these organizations, and it's all been really positive. I don't have any specifics on the outcomes of conversations like that. Obviously, we're just getting started, and our leverage and impact is not as significant as other big organizations. But Give Directly is definitely in conversations with those organizations and making sure the money they're donating as cash transfers and using in certain areas, they have a really good due diligence process, and they work with governments to make sure everything is working there. I think there's, as we look forward and getting partnerships and thinking who are the right types of people to help leverage this idea, governments will be important, but it'll also be just for-profit large corporations. It'll be big players in the crypto space. It'll be, people that are going to help us scale this idea and really provide some support around it, because we are creating a new form of money, and there's a market dynamics and network effects around adoption. All those things are built into a strategy to get this thing launched and really scaled. So but it's important. Once there's significant impact, we can have high-level conversations. We'll make sure we're doing things the right way, and we want to have everybody aligned in terms of the impact we're giving. That's good
to I think stipulate. Like Jeff said, like we're just getting started. We are a very small team right now, 11 people, and in all honesty, we are, if that word makes sense, piggybacking at this moment on the judgment calls of Give Directly and the on-the-ground work that they do, their government relationships, their infrastructure in terms of payments. Like they are actually doing the heavy lifting there. We, at this point, we're only focused on creating this second income stream for them. And from my experience, I also think like, we will definitely have these conversations. But right now we're so small, we haven't even launched. I don't think we would make for a very meaningful voice at the table yet.
Sure.
I did see a documentary about Give Directly just a couple of weeks ago, which was interesting because it was a documentary that really showed both sides. So it definitely showed a positive impact, but it also had some critical notes about, shouldn't governments actually be doing this? And they showed a couple of painful effects, like what if two villages are neighboring, and then one village does get the income, but the other doesn't get it yet.
Right.
So it's by no means perfect, but what I got from that documentary is mostly that, in general, making sure that more money goes to this is a good thing, because then hopefully perhaps this other village can get an income, because now they don't have to select. That's what we're focusing on right now.
What's sort of the roadmap right now? I guess how can people or companies participate right now, or when will they be able to? And then sort of talk about a little bit about that roadmap for 2023.
Well, it's actually an exciting week to ask that question. And this week, we are finally doing our soft launch, which means that we're going to test onboarding our first customer. So we've been building a platform, like a digital platform, where if you have a corporation, you can create an account, you can send us money, and then you get Glow dollars. And that was quite some technical, but also legal work, and we're finally there. Sure. So we're going to test that out with one company. If that all works well, then we hope to do our actual launch early next year. However, unfortunately, we then still won't be able to sell Glow to individuals, because that is legally quite difficult. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do instead is what most cryptocurrencies do, is we sell it in large amounts to a crypto exchange. So those are companies like Binance, Kraken, Coinbase. Those are crypto exchanges. We sell the Glow to them, and then if you're an individual and you want to get Glow dollars, you don't buy them from us directly, but you buy them at your favorite crypto exchange. And that timing is a little dependent on how quick we can get those partnerships going. We're definitely having good conversations. Unfortunately, due to events you're probably aware of, exchanges have they're also busy doing some other things right now.
They're under a bit of pressure.
Yeah. But if it all goes well, then individuals should be able to buy Glow dollars very early next year. And then what we're going to do throughout the rest of the year is two things. We're gonna create a nice dashboard that shows, if you own Glow dollars, like what's the impact you're having, how much money you've generated, like how many people have you been lifting out of poverty, perhaps showing you some ways to increase that number. Maybe you can invite friends, family, things like that. And then the other thing that we're going to try to work on is give this cryptocurrency some utility. And that's basically jargon for making sure that it's actually a useful form of money. So in the beginning, Glow dollars, you can buy them, you can sell them, but there's no shop that will accept them as payment. But that is the future we want to work towards, that you can actually buy your milk with Glow dollars and receive your salary in the form of Glow dollars. And that is going to require us to partner with payroll companies or card issuers or banks or payment platforms, and that's what we're going to work on over the course of the next year.
Yeah, there's for the crypto folks that are listening, early access will be on DeFi, decentralized exchanges, as well. So there's this process of getting to a place where a lot of people have access to it through the centralized exchanges, listing on as many as you can. But on the DeFi, like a Uniswap, we hope to have that listed in early 2023 as well. So if you're into those things, we'll make sure we let you know when it's available to actually purchase there as well.
Even in that sort of first instance, through DeFi exchanges, it will still act like it normally would on correctly, you'll still get the money, and then that money will still go to people in extreme poverty, correct?
Think of it as, any outstanding supply of Glow is benefiting
Gotcha.
the mission, generating income. It's the market cap growth, which leads to higher reserve assets supporting as collateral. You buying on Uniswap, creating demand, and you holding Glow in a wallet means that there is reserve supporting that, and it's going to be generating interest income. So when Jasper mentioned corporations coming to our platform, basically entities, initially US-based entities, will be able to actually create an account, mint, issue the Glow, change the actual dollars for Glow, and then the general public individuals will hopefully have access points to actually buy it through exchanges and DeFi protocols and those type of things.
I want to end with a couple questions here. The first would be, as you go out and conversate, promote Glow, talk to different people, whether it's in the crypto industry or, outside of the crypto industry, have conversations been a little bit more difficult to have with, let's say, like companies since sort of this, the FTX sort of collapse and, all the domino effects that happen with that? Have conversations been a little bit more difficult in this time as crypto is going through a bit of I actually think a positive time in its history? But do you see conversations maybe with companies or just prior people you were discussing before something like that happens, and now they're sort of reassessing and doesn't want to be involved in, crypto or anything at all like that? Have those conversations happened? Has it been difficult to onboard as quickly as you thought it might be with some organizations or some companies?
Well, we definitely don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. That already wasn't the case.
Right.
Being crypto already makes people suspicious by default, but now even more than then, it's on us to build trust. We do experience that if we actually talk to someone and have some time to have a conversation to explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, what the potential impact is, and why we're using crypto, and then have a two-sided conversation where someone then comes with questions and concerns and we answer them, then almost always we get to a point where the other person leaves the conversation thinking, okay, yeah, this is a good idea and I want to be a part of this. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't get that conversation, right? You're on social media, someone is just reading one of your tweets or just browsing very quickly through your website and then coming to a conclusion. Yeah, then it's definitely happening that people just by default assume that this is some kind of get rich quick scheme or even worse. So yeah, we have to do the work to build trust. Definitely.
Yeah, but asking what's good about kind of the recent events is when we ask potential partners like, hey, can you show us proof of reserves? That's we expect you to ask that. Before it was like, no, we don't want, let us operate by ourselves. So that's really important. I think the ecosystem is going to become stronger.
Yep.
But it's also important, like Jasper said, we have to do the work to make sure people understand Glow is much different than Terra Luna. It's like both Terra USD was a stable coin and we're calling ourselves a stable coin. There's a problem there. It's a totally different mechanism, totally different type of backing. Ours is very, very low risk relative to Terra USD. So clearing up how we use these terms, even the term crypto I mentioned represents a lot of things and people think of it as speculative. So, blockchain money, blockchain fully backed, 100% reserved money, that's what we need to really push out there. And the mission is the important aspect of getting people into this movement, because it's how do we think about this blockchain fully backed trusted money in a new way to actually want to participate and support a cause. So
I want to end a little bit on the future, and I know it can be tough just starting out, right? There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different, every day's a win, right? Every week there's wins and losses. But as you maybe look, let's say, 3 to 5 years down the road, what does success look like for you and the team and Glow, being in the ecosystem, being in the world and impacting lives? What does success look like?
I think for me, I would be very happy to get to the point where the general public sees Glow as just another form of money that they can use in their daily lives. Basically, everyone knows that if you care about extreme poverty as a cause area, then using the Glow dollar rather than the US dollar is one of the main things you can do to make a step in the right direction. Kind of analogous. It's maybe a bit of a weird analogy, but kind of analogous to that everyone knows that if you care about animal welfare, then the thing to do is eat less meat. That, yeah, like if you care about extreme poverty, then the thing to do is try to use the Glow dollar in your daily life as money.
Yeah, and add to that, so like 3 to 5 years, where this really takes off and gets network effects and grows substantially, like billions and billions of market cap, something that's used all over the world, is when companies accept it, when DeFi protocols denominate their products in Glow, when payment apps make Glow the back end settlement layer, all these things where money is just used, like there's no reason it can't be this blockchain embedded philanthropy type of money. And we're already seeing companies like Stripe use stable coins in their business models. So we want Glow to anywhere money is touched, and it just provides transfer of value. Blockchains are becoming scalable. The technology is trusted. All these things are really important to getting lots of adoption. So there's two sides of it. It's like infrastructure, companies adopting and payment apps, and then people really pushing for like, okay, why not money? Why can't money represent something more than just what we traditionally think of as a transfer of value?
Right. Well, that's, man, if you can get into all these different layers, the compound effect of the impact is really, it starts to really get a little bit eye-opening, as far as, really changing the environments on the ground for people, living in extreme poverty, then it could get really interesting on how things go from there. So it's quite powerful and innovative. It's just it's like you said, it's the trust factor, I think, is going to be paramount as Globe moves forward. And that's, I think, welcoming that challenge of building that trust, building technology in the ecosystem, building those transparency layers, whether it's the logins to show impact at a retail level for a person, or for companies looking at ways they can give back passively is super interesting, right? Because then all of a sudden their budgets, they don't have to, they can use some of their philanthropy budgets for other things to help grow their business. So there is an interesting aspect of the passive philanthropy being put into work in the world as you see how people could use it. It could get really interesting.
Yeah, we'd love to see it on balance sheets, and companies say like, hey, we have X on our balance sheet as liquid capital for our business, and it's generating X amount of dollars that lift X amount of people out of extreme poverty. So it's a great story, and I really hope we can scale this to make it really appealing to people.
Yeah, and if I may, I'd like to make it a little actionable for anyone who's listening.
Sure.
If someone hearing this is excited or inspired, we're really creating a new and honestly a little bit of a weird form of philanthropy that, like you say, like once it clicks, is such a no-brainer. But because it's so new, it takes a while before it clicks with most people.
Yeah.
We're looking for this first group of adopters, like really like the early adopters who click with what we're doing and want to set the right example by pioneering the usage of the Glow dollar. So any movement needs first movers. So sure. if someone listening is like, hey, I wanna help them out just by doing this, we're probably gonna launch a page, glowdollar.org/DFG. So that's like for Disruptors for Good, where you can sign up for the waitlist to buy Glow. I'll be honest, that doesn't really do anything except helping us show demand, helping us show that there is a group of people that is willing to start this movement, and that would mean the world to us, because that might just inspire the next person to do the same thing, and then perhaps a company to start accepting Glow, and that's hopefully how this thing will start out. It's
pretty amazing. I'll link everything below. Just so people can find out all information. I'll point people to the FAQs and everything, so they can do their own diligence and look over and review this stuff. But I think you guys done a great job of sort of simplifying it and showing what, $100 can do, right? Or $1,000 can do. I think just putting, the basic math there of how the treasury bills work and simple, interest rate, it can be simplified pretty clearly, right? To where we can disregard like all the complicated stuff that sometimes perhaps blockchain brings to people and they don't kind of want to deal with it. I think you've done a great job so far simplifying, what $100 does, what $1,000 does. And again, it's not a donation so that people don't give away their money. They could still be philanthropic and give back. And I think that allows people who perhaps traditionally don't have the means to give back, but really want to give back. I think there's a massive set of the population that, wants to be philanthropic, but it's difficult. It's difficult to do that when you don't have necessarily the funds that some people do that can, donate, $5,000-$10,000 or even $1,000. So the aspect that you don't necessarily have to donate and give your money away to have an impact, I think is a powerful motivating factor for people across all economic scales to give back now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how this scales.
Yeah.
If people are just using it as money, we keep, relying on donations to solve extreme poverty isn't going to get us there. It has to be this passive philanthropy, embedded philanthropy type of product. And we think this is a really good starting point. Amazing.
Well, thanks, Jasper. Thanks, Jeffrey. Been an awesome conversation. I think hopefully we'd love to have you back on maybe this time at the end of the year of next year and see what progress has been made, and maybe we can get a couple people involved in maybe a little roundtable discussion on giving back and new ways of doing so. I think that's a conversation that is sort of a little bit under the radar. There's so much technology that does incredible things, yet sort of this really, really foundational level of like extreme poverty, extreme hunger. We've yet to see innovative technology work for those individuals around the world. So I think any time that innovation can really seep into the other billion around the world sort of living in extreme conditions, that's sort of the last mile, so to speak, of doing some really powerful things. So thanks for taking the time. Thanks for putting in the work and continuing the day-to-day challenge of building something potentially great. So congrats to you and the team, and best of luck to next year.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate being on the show.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, great conversation. And that would be great to be back in a year and discuss some of these topics.